Hello and welcome back to the SuperCoach Corner podcast for season 2026. We are back with a bang. SuperCoach Team Pickers live. It's been live for about a month now. And as always, I'm Tyson. Joined alongside me is Darcy. Darcy, how do you feel? How was the break? SuperCoach is back?
SuperCoach is back, mate, and more importantly, footy's just around the corner. So, no, the break was really good. I got to enjoy the holiday period with the family, and new year, cricket season's over officially. Smash the Poms, and now it's time to get straight back into footy, mate. Excited.
Yeah, it was a great Ashes campaign as a Australian, I guess. Got to talk some shit to people at work, which is good. A couple of Poms at work, which is nice to always do. But we're here to talk footy, aren't we? So SuperCoach Team Pick is here. It's been out for about a month. We've done our best to not look at each other's teams. We've had a couple of glimpses here and there just in sort of making this sort of video, but we will go through line by line, look at a few players that are already on the radar for season 2026 in the now 2-month build up to opening round.
Exactly right, mate. And we'll, like you said, go through line by line and talk about the players we've picked and maybe a couple of players who might have been just shy to miss out. But I think we're differing opinions here. I'm well and truly under the impression that this is going to be nowhere near my final team that I take into round one. But it's always fun to get a few players in the park and play around with a good starting block. So if you're keen, mate, let's get stuck into it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm probably of the opinion that my team's not going to change too much, but that's probably pending rookies, and I'm sure that it will change a million times. We say this every year.
Clip this and bring it round one when your team is nothing like what you're showing today.
Well, provided everything goes smoothly, this should be uploaded on YouTube as well as a video podcast. So feel free to head over and subscribe as well. We are on Facebook, Instagram, I believe X now,
everywhere,
YouTube,
mate.
TikTok, everywhere. You'll find SuperCoach Corner everywhere.
You cannot escape us now. We're coming at you from every angle.
And we've got a lot of content coming up in this preseason as well. We'll do team-based podcasts, so we'll go through each team, look at players, possible starting 23s for each side, and potential SuperCoach options on each team. But without further ado, let's get straight into the defense. And Das, we'll start with you. Talk me through your defense. Looks like you got a couple of mid-prices in there.
Yeah, that's the theme that starts in defense, man. It continues throughout the team, so get used to it. There's a lot of mid-price madness going around this year, and I feel like it's been the trend the last couple of years. I think with higher trade numbers the last few years, and the introduction of the boost and the flex, you can sort of take these risks with the mid-prices. Whereas 5-6 years ago it was guns and rookies from the start. That was the way that you win. But yeah, starting the defense, I'll go from the top. I mean, Wangani Malera, just glancing down at yours, I can see you've got him as well. I think everyone probably should start with this guy. Just the way that he finished in the back half of last year, it's hard to really argue that he's going to slow down at all. We know how good he is. You just think he's going to slot straight into that St Kilda midfield and dominate, really. So I think he's one that is pretty much locked away, and I'm with you on this one. I can't see him, no matter how bad his preseason is, unless he gets injured in some sort. I'll be starting with him to start the year. Connor Rosie, Tice. This one, I'd love to get your opinion on him. I can see you have him as well, but it's very much, for me, it's preseason dependent. I don't want him as much if he's a midfielder, because they've got so many midfielders, with Miles Bergman also going in there. I love that half-back role. I'm picking him for the half-back role, and let's hope that he keeps that through the preseason.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I want it for the half-back role. Obviously, the DPP is quite nice to have early as well. But yeah, you want that half-back role. The Port coach has come out and said that their main three midfielders are going to be Jason Horne-Francis, Butters, and Bergman, which I can see is your next little selection, and I really like it. But I want Rosie for that half-back role for sure. If he is going anywhere near that midfield or forward line, I'm not picking him. But at the moment, it's all looking like he's running off that halfback.
Yeah, exactly right. So fingers crossed he keeps that role that he finished with in the second half of last year. And like you mentioned, next man in line is Miles Bergman. I had the biggest Bergman crush last year when he went into the midfield. He did a couple jobs here and there. I think he started on Dawson, was his first real crack in midfield minutes. Got thrown around a little bit. That's my one main worry about Bergman is he's a little bit of a Mr. Fix-It for Port. Like an injury down back, he'll go down back. He's done roles in the wing, even up forward. He spent time last year. So, but new coach has said that they'll be building their midfield around him and Jason Horn-Francis. So if he gets that throughout the preseason, I'm all about it. Next one, Tice. It's a bit of a speculative mid-pricer. Chankworth Jath, CJ. He's made the move from Hawthorn to Melbourne. I know I can see you don't have him. I'd love to get your opinion on him. I just think for me, I'm probably jumping the gun a little bit on that small sample size we had in the Hawthorn colours last year, where I think Sisley was out, Scrimshaw was down, and Barras might have even missed a couple of games there, and he got that role in that Hawthorn back six, and he dominated. I think he went back-to-back 130s, and then those blokes came back and it sort of pushed him back. I think he went 130, 140, and then almost got the sub-vest the week after. So he was just not getting a good crack at Hawthorn, but I think in the Melbourne lineup he will get that, and I think he has the ceiling to really, at 350k, he could really build on that price and push out some big scores. Yeah, like I said, I noticed you don't have him. Was he on your radar at all?
Yeah, he is and still is because Melbourne have clearly gone after him for a reason. And with Jake Bowie going down for the first half of the year as well, it's going to just bode a massive scoring uptick for Giath as well at 360k. I do like the pick. I do want to see the preseason first before I'm even going near him first.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I think it is a watch, and like I said, a little bit of a speculative one. But I think if I get a little bit of form in the preseason, it'll be one I'm pretty comfortable with. Moving into the last four, it's a bit of rookie roulette at this time of year, mate. Reece McInnes, I flagged to you a little bit earlier, did his ACL last year. I really do see him coming in and solidifying himself as that third tool in the Collingwood defence. We're pretty desperate for some young talent, and I think he's one that could really play a big role in our 2026 campaign. He's got his body right. He's hit the preseason with the ground running, and he's turning the house down. So he's one. Jason Wrong, another one that I think he's won back-to-back VFL best and fairest. Made the move across to Sydney, who sort of needed that tall or medium defender depth back there. So granted, he gets picked. I think he sort of plays the brand that you want, Supercoach wise. Takes intercept marks, gets a lot of kick marks, sort of stuff. So fingers crossed, he can get a good crack at it in the Sydney colours this year. And then a couple of rookies to round out the best bench. I think Josh Gibcus, granted he gets his body right, will be in a lot of teams to start the year. I think we've said that most preseasons the last few years, and he always ends up with a bad injury. He just can't really get his body right. But look, we know he's a talent, so let's hope he keeps himself together. And then Josh Goda, pretty similar to be fair. He's really highly rated at North Melbourne, but again, cannot get his body together. So if he can get a good run in preseason and get a game, I think Jackson Archer actually went down today, did his ACL, unfortunately for him. So that sort of opens up a spot for that small defender down back in that North Melbourne backline. And if he keeps his body right, it could be Josh Godin. But no, that's my defence, mate. I'll flip it back over to you, and you can run through yours. There's a couple of guys we already spoke about, but I can see that speaking of people who haven't got their body right, there's a couple of guys there in that defence of yours that I'd love to get your thoughts on.
Yeah, look, I know that this defense is going to change just because I've picked four blokes that have made a paper. Like it's so easy to change it around. They might go down in preseason or whatever. But just quickly back to rounding off your team, I do like the sound of Reece McInnes as well. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on him. And Jai Sarong I had in my first iteration of team. It doesn't really matter with the rookies at the moment. I just sort of wanted to beef up the rookie price, so then I have theoretically more money in my rookies, so then I have more flexibility to go elsewhere. So, but I do like the look of Jai Sarong. But yes, you alluded to it. I've got Wangani Malera and Rose as well, but then I've gone Jordan Ridley. If you're gonna pick these guys that are so injury prone, you need to start them so that it's only going to cost you one trade to trade him out. So if you don't start him and he gets on a heater and everyone wants to jump on him, and then he's prone to an injury, it's going to cost you 2 trades. Whereas if you have him from the start, it's only going to cost you 1 to get rid of him. So you're not banking on injuries, and I know he has the scoring potential at 400, under 420k. I think that's a steal. I don't know what your thoughts are on Ridley.
Yeah, I think I'm a big Ridley fan. And like you said, if he can get his body right, we've spoken about it last year. You always pick one injury-prone guy that just ends up dominating. I think last year, I can't remember, was it Will Day potentially? No, Adam Chera did bits for you throughout the year. And I was too scared to jump on him at the start of the year because of his injuries. And then the year before that, it was famously Elliot Yeo who carried you to a very, very good year. Again, I was too scared to jump on him. So Ridley, I'm a huge fan of. I love the way he plays. I can't trust his body, but you might be right. It might be one that I bite the bullet on. If you can have a good preseason, and he doesn't get injured, then maybe. But it is a scary one.
Yeah, next in mine is Kitty Coleman, and we all know that famous finals campaign where he just took the piss, was racking up disposals for fun. We know he's got the talent. He's just had those injuries. I believe it was an ACL in the last one. So, we know what he's capable of, and at 233k, I think that's a steal. Tom Dode is another one that's copped a few injuries. He's played a lot of AFL, so we know he can easily get up to that 300, 350k, and that's already he's done his job in, providing some points on field and making 150k. I think that's actually more of a lock for me at this point in time. Josh Gibcus, he's done a lot of preseason work. He's been in a preseason camp with Petrarca, Merritt, and Laverde. So he's done a lot of work off field, which is great to see, and hopefully he can get onto the park as well. Cooper Simpson, I think a lot of people are forgetting that he dropped the 270s back to back and was just looked like a massive cash generator for us last year, but then unfortunately got injured. He looks so good, and with another preseason under his belt, I feel like they're going to play him. And at 180k for a running halfback, we know how good they are when you've got a cheap running halfback. Cooper Simpson for me, I really like the look of. And then the final one for me is another Richmond boy in Sam Grill. He is another running halfback. He will get games. He was an early draft pick. Richmond love him. And he played a few VFL games. He looks the goods at the moment.
Very good. Yeah, you have spoken highly about him throughout the preseason, so one to keep an eye on for sure. Cooper Simpson, I really like the pick. He looked so good in those couple of games he played last year. Obviously went down in the first 2 or 3 minutes of his third game, which was heartbreaking for a lot of super coaches last year. But yeah, if he can lock down that spot in the Fremantle defence, he's one that I think will start in a lot of teams, and one that I'll definitely be looking at myself. I sort of more saw him after I'd picked my rookies, and I was like, well, I don't want to spend the extra cash to get him in now. I'll do it later if I need to. So, he's one that I'm very keen on if he gets the games and starts the year.
Yep. Nice. All right. Well, let's move on to the midfield. We'll start with your team as well. So let's go straight into it, and we can see you've got a few top end premiums and a few mid prices. Not as many as me, I don't think. But talk us through your midfield line.
Yeah. A couple of big dogs, not as many as you. I've looked for some value in the midfield this year. Zach Butters is one that I am just uber confident on. And I think it looks like you're the same. It just reeks of a huge year for Zach Butters. Obviously, he has dominated Supercoach for the last few years. We know how good he is. Contract year, he's playing for a lot of money. He will get a huge contract in next year, and the better he plays this year, the more zeros he'll put in that contract. He's still going to be dominating that midfield for Port Adelaide, and look, he's had a couple of innocuous injuries over the last couple of years that kept him out at the start of last year. Get a good run at it. I think he's one that's pretty safe to start. It's a high price tag at $650. He might be the second most expensive midfielder. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's one that I'm confident with, and I think I'd be really happy and confident. Yeah, confident to start with. Um, yeah, you have Zach Butters as well, Tyson. You feeling the same way?
Yeah, he's just a lock for me. Like you said, it's a contract year. We know what he's capable of. He's one of those top end guys you really want to finish your team with, and why not just start him? It's just so much easier at 650k. Even if he drops a little bit, I'm not complaining too much. He's still putting out hundreds. If he gets down to 600k, so um, not not too worried about him. The only thing that I have noticed now seeing your midfield is that you've got three of the Port big dogs. You've got
I do.
Rosie, Bergman, and Butters.
Yeah, well, hoping that Bergman is a big dog. Um, look, and it's granted that Rosie's playing off halfback, so I'm happy to pick a gun midfielder and a gun defender from the same team, and then Bergman's just a mid pricer that I'm taking a punt on to get midfield minutes. So, um, yeah, like 2 years ago, people would have been floating around with Butters, Rosie in the same midfield, and Dan Houston off halfback. I think there's points there, and with Bergman's like discounted price, I'm happy to take that risk. It was something that I was not really wanting to do last year. And it sort of pushed me off a couple of big players. Bergman, one of them. I sort of turned my back on Bergman at some stage last year because I already had Butters and Rosie and Jason Francis, and I didn't want that fourth, which I think is fair. But McKercher was the other one. He jumped on McKercher. I had a couple of North Melbourne boys that I didn't want that extra one. And McKercher finished the year on a huge run. And I sort of missed that just because of being afraid of picking too many players from the same team. I think 3 is okay. And I'm pretty happy with where that sits. But who knows? We'll see how that lands and where the roles sort of solidify throughout the preseason. Moving on, like I said, the next couple of guys I was sort of looking for value. Caleb Sarong had a really good year last year, but I think SuperCoach-wise, he was just touching the surface. He was doing just enough, getting 105 every week, 106. And it was very consistent, but didn't really blow many games out of the park. I think he has that extra level. We saw it the year before. He was huge in 2024. I think he can get back to that. So I'm pretty confident at 570. I think it's a really good price. So, I'm picking him. Also, take into account, I have looked at the buys to start my team. I like that Freo don't have a buy. I like that Port don't. There's a couple of buys that I took the risk on. So Goulden has that. I think it's around 3 buy, which can be a bit of a tricky one, but I'm feeling pretty confident there. That's why I've sort of strayed away from a couple of the other big dogs. Nick Dacos, it's hard for me not to start Nick Dacos, just because of a huge Collingwood man I am and how much I love him, how much I think he'll dominate next year. But I started him last year despite the bad buy, and people bought him for 100k cheaper than what I did, 150k cheaper probably, and weren't sort of killed for it early in the year. I felt that, I think it was around 3 or around 4 when Collingwood had their first buy last year. I just fell behind the pack and I was chasing my tail ever since then. I don't really want to start like that again. And if that means not picking Nick Dacos as hard as it is, I'm going to have to do it, unfortunately. So, Caleb's wrong. And then Errol Goulden, again, a bit of a discounted price, had a really injury-interrupted season last year, but sort of came back and he had played a couple really good games, got his hands on the ball. We know how good Errol Goulden can be. The only thing with him, I want him to play midfield. I want him to play in the guts. I don't want an outside wing playing Errol Goulden. So, again, that's something that I'll have to look at in the preseason, have a listen to what Dean Cox might say. But he's one that we know how good he is. I was tossing up between him and Isaac Heaney. I just was thrown, like, Dean Cox loves throwing Isaac Heaney at full forward. But with Charlie Kerner, does that change? Who knows? Maybe I'll be more confident picking Heaney. But, those are the two sort of discounted midfielder premiums I've picked, Tice. Any thoughts on those two?
I really like Sarong. I'm a big Sarong fan, and probably something to take into consideration is I haven't taken into consideration the early buys. So that's I know that my team's going to change based on the early buys. I don't want to have too many on the early buys because it's just an extra player that you have missing when someone else is going to get the leg up. So I do really like Sarong. I'm not as hot on Goulden. I don't like the wing role, and I'm almost certain that, like, in my in my head, he's definitely playing a wing role. He's so good there. Like, he's not going to be a bad super coach pick. I'd rather pick another midfielder that I know is getting just bulk midfield minutes and just going to be in and around that ball. So I'm not a huge fan of it, but I don't hate it so much. I know a lot of people are going to be pretty hot on Goulden this year. But yeah, as you alluded to, I have picked Nick Dacos. Yeah, like you said, he didn't help you out in the first few rounds, but it's not going to say that he's going to be the one that does it again. I know he had a few little injury issues, little niggles, that kind of stuff early in the year. But yeah, depending when his early buy is probably a good time to maybe look at picking him up then. But Nick Dacos is Nick Dacos at 628k. You're getting him cheaper than Butters. Like, we know he's a super coach pig. He just loves it. Yeah,
I won't be able to help myself.
Not so. And then a couple of the discounted premiums that I've gone for is Clayton Oliver. We know how good he is when he's on his game. Like, he has been top Supercoach pick for years, and obviously he had a few issues in the last couple of years. So I feel like a fresh start for him. I want to see a preseason before I commit to it. Especially working in with Finn Callahan and Tom Green and how that mix is going to be. But I really like the look of Clayton Oliver. I was hoping he was a tiny bit cheaper with how he was scoring last year, but 500k, I'm still buying at the moment. So I don't hate it. I need to see some preseason with the main midfield team. And the other quote-unquote, I guess, premium price player is Will Day again. I started him last year. He's about the same price, and we know how good he can be. He's about the same price. Like, why wouldn't I just go again? He's just going to be that top-end scorer, provided he can get on the park. And with another preseason under his belt, I think that's going to benefit him. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the midfield premiums for me?
Will they I like. I didn't like it last year, but I just saw enough from when he did play that I think he's a gun. And if he gets his body right, he's probably one that, like you said, take the risk on him early. I didn't start him last year, and then there was the point where I thought, geez, I'm going to have to get him in. He started so hot, and then he sort of slowed down and got injured. So I was lucky there. But yeah, he might be one that I take the risk on. Clayton Oliver, I can't do it. I can't do it again. He's hurt me so many times, and I just can't see. I agree that I think a fresh start will do him wonders, but yeah, you said you need a preseason. I need to see a full season from him before I could jump on it. After what it's not even just 1 year that he's burnt us. He's burnt us a lot over the last few years. Just that hope that we'll get the Clayton Oliver of old back. And he's got to transition to a whole new system and hope that the way that he did play suits that well, and it is a bit of a hope. So, he's obviously a gun and has been a gun for a long time, but I won't have the balls to start him this year.
No, that's definitely fair. Well, we'll see how he goes in the preseason. We obviously have to wait and see. But let's go through the next four players, and the first one off the rank is Hayden Young. And I think we both know why you've picked Hayden Young. You absolutely were all about him last year, and towards the back end, I think it's just an easy walk-up start, right?
Yeah. I think I used my last trade to bring him in last year, or one of my last trades, and then I couldn't trade him out when he did that hammy late in the year. I loaded up the team picker this year, and he was already there. I didn't even have to pick him. He lives in my SuperCoach team, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm a big Hayden Young man, and at that price, I cannot say no.
I'm still waiting for that trade, yeah?
Yeah, still waiting for it. He's a gun. We saw like those 2 or 3 games that I had him at the end of last year. I picked him up like earlier than other people did, and I just sat back and watched him. You know, when you make a speculative SuperCoach pick and you just and I had to watch every minute of him play, and I watched him like a hawk for ages. And he's just a gun. He's such a good footballer. He's obviously got a lot of hamstring issues. So another one that I think fits in that mold of a Will Day, of a Kitty Coleman, those sort of guys that have had body issues. You can take that punt on them early. At 390k, there's just no going wrong with Hayden Young. Similarly, I think Tyson in Darcy Parish, he's one that he's so cheap, 330k, and like we know how good he has been Supercoach wise. He's had a couple really big peak seasons. He's just an accumulator. They want him to step up with Merritt sort of handing over the captaincy and wanting to leave the club last year. If he gets his body right, which I think from all reports in the preseason, it sounds like he is, he's one at 330k. If he's playing round one, everyone should start him because he's not going to play anywhere but in the midfield, and we know how good he can be when playing midfield minutes. So, yeah, I think those two pretty much speak for themselves and will pick themselves in most sides. Tanner Bruin, Tice, I think we chatted about him briefly a couple of weeks ago. He had a pretty rough year last year, and to say the least. And look, I think he'll want to prove himself this year. And he's a highly rated talent, has been for a long time, the top draft pick at GWS. And Geelong worked hard to get him across to the category. And I think that they were sort of hoping for a breakout year last year, but I think this will be the year this year. He's had 2 years of preseason, so I sort of hope that he can take that into the year. But I think he'll really complement
hopefully
like Bailey Smith and Max Holmes as well.
Yeah, hopefully he gets that finger right, just to make sure that he's on the park. And he was priced at nearly 400k last year. Obviously, without playing a game, you get him discounted even more. So 276k, you're picking up a bargain there, even if he's going to go the same as what he did the year before. We saw he pulled out a few 80s. Chris got luck to throw around the midfield and make sure blokes didn't play a lot of minutes. So that's why he scored a couple of 40s. But on his games, he was scoring 80s, 90s, 100s. And with another 2 years under his belt, I feel like he's going to really shine here.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Geelong were looking for that, third, fourth midfielder a lot last year. They experimented with a lot of guys. So probably a fourth. So they've got Atkins, Holmes, and Bailey Smith, who do a lot of the work in there. But I think they need that fourth guy. They had Mitch Nevitt run through there. They had our boy Closey run through there. A couple guys go through there at stages. I think they were pretty much. I don't even think it's a stretch to say they were all holding a spot for Tanner Bruin this year. I think that's their long-term guy. I think they want him in that spot for the next 5, 6, 7 years. So yeah, like you said, as long as he gets that finger right, I think he should have a big, big year. Jagger Smith is the next one, Tyus. I think like he will be he could set records for the highest ownership of all time. I reckon he will be so highly owned. Carlton supporters think he's the next Chris Judd. He was the reason they didn't make final. He was the reason they didn't win the flag last year. A lot of Carlton supporters were saying if he didn't do his ACL, they would have been fighting it off in the grand final. So, for more reports, he is having a big preseason and should hit the ground running come round one.
Yeah, definitely. Can't disagree with that. And probably the only other thing that we need to consider with Tanner Bruin is the fact that they went and recruited James Warble. So how that sort of mould works together with the new Geelong midfield. That's the only caveat I'd have on the Tanner Bruin pick. Yeah, Jagger Smith is probably a walk-up start in that Carlton lineup, and we know how highly rated he was before he did his ACL. So at 120k, you're picking up a pick 3 or pick 4. I can't remember what he went at. For 120k, it's with another year in the AFL system of just preseason, it's a steal for sure. The last guy I can see on your midfield line is Will Brodie. That is also another easy pick. We know that this guy is a freak. He can put on the SuperCoach points, and if you're getting him at 120k, that's just an easy start. like I'm saying this, and you can't see him on my
I
screen,
was
but
going to
he
say,
is, spoiler, in my flex. In my flex, so yeah, he's on the field for me. It's an easy pick, I think. Would you feel the same way?
yeah. I think if he gets games, like you pick him. It'd be the same last year with Freo at 300k. You probably would pick him if he gets games. He scores really. The way he plays leans really well to SuperCoach scoring, gets contested balls, clearances, that sort of stuff. So yeah, if he gets games, they gave up a lot to get him across. Pick 116 or something, I think it was. So you'd hope they give him a few games. But yeah, he's one definitely watching the preseason. If he really applies himself and wants to play a lot of AFL footy, I think he can, and I think he can really dominate at the level as well. So yeah, here's one that to keep an eye on. To end up my bench, Tice, like I said, it's a bit of a rookie roulette at this time of year. There's a few guys that you sort of hope and pray. Josh Smiley is a big one. Highly rated draft pick a couple of years ago. Couldn't get his body right last year, but from all reports, he's training really well in Richmond preseason this year. Big body midfielder. If he can, there's obviously spots up for grabs in that midfield with a couple of aging guys and a couple of young guys in there as well. So he's one that I think, I know I'll get your thoughts in a second, but hopefully can really solidify that spot in the Richmond midfield this year. Sid Draper, look, I love him. I don't expect him to be there come round one. I don't love the job security in a really, in an Adelaide side that will challenge for top four and should be there. So he's got a good DPP. He's really nicely priced. He's a star, but he might just be a little bit too young to really cement himself in that Adelaide midfield. And then Harry Schoenberg was another one. He's an experienced body who played a lot of footy for Adelaide. Was a lot in the Subfest last year and couldn't really break into that squad, but West Coast might lean to his experience in that young side. So he's one that if he gets a game at 119k, might be hard to say no.
Yeah, nice. I really like the Schoenberg pick too. Yeah, he did enough at Adelaide. Maybe wasn't the greatest. I know a couple of Adelaide supporters that weren't big fans of him, but yeah, he should, like, if he's getting a game at West Coast, he should be maybe running through that midfield as well. So I don't mind the Schoenberg pick. Sid Draper I want to have a look at as well. But yeah, Josh Smiley, he underwent quad surgery in November. But they should have him back. So he's not going to have a full preseason, but he should be back to training end of Jan or start of Feb. So, which is probably enough with all the conditioning he did last year as well. Apparently, he was in some fine nick. So, yeah, I think Josh Smiley's a good starting pick. So, I'm a big fan. Looks like he's going to be a gun for the future for Richmond. So, I'm a big fan of that. Zeke Ulan for me. I really like how highly rated he is. He's at 199k, so he's the top end price rookie, but it's just putting a bit more cash into the rookies so that I can easily change them around. It's just I got to wait and see for Euland. We're probably going to go off that half back at a guess, but they've got John Noble and Dan Rioli, so I'm not sure how that's going to fit in. And then Dyson Sharp, just another highly rated draft pick as well. Can't speak too much on him at the moment, but looks like he's going to get a few games. We know that Essendon are going to try and blood their younger guys, and yeah, with Zach Merritt probably on the outer at the end of this year, they're going to have a look. They're going to have a look at what else they drafted. So him, Sullivan, Roby, yeah, don't know who at the moment, but I'm sure that will change. But that's it for the midfield, I guess.
Yeah, just on quickly on your midfield, I really liked the Dyson Sharp pick. He was one guy in that draft class that I think really stood out. His maturity, playing a bit of sample footy last year, I think he was one of the few guys that you could see slot straight into an AFL system and slot and potentially play round one. So, yeah, one to really keep an eye on. I don't have him right now, but I do really like him, and hopefully he gets minutes in that Essendon midfield. I do also like, you touched on it a couple of times, I like how you've picked those high. It's not something that I probably haven't done, but you picked the higher end rookies so that, if you actually want to move a Will Day to a Finn Callahan, because Finn Callahan's training the house down or played a couple of huge preseason games and Will Day's done his hammy, it's not going to be that hard. Trade Ezekiel into a Harry Schoenberg and you already bank 80k there. So I do like, and it's a good strategy when starting your teams, because gives you a lot more flexibility. So, yes, I
Yep.
do like that, Tice. But yeah, I'm happy to move on now.
Yeah. Let's go. Oh, sorry, ruck line first. Here we go. And this is I can see you've got a couple of different picks there.
Very
I'm not sure
different.
if you can see my
Very
ruck line
different.
yet, but yeah,
Wow, wow. What are you
completely
are?
different actually. Well, talk us through yours. You've gone with Grundy and Jackson. Any reason on those? I know that Jackson's is he not going to be sharing that ruck role with Sean Darcy?
Yeah, he will, but I just think so. Something to touch on quickly: the new ruck rules, well, not new ruck rules, with less boundary throw-ins next year. So I think between the arcs next year, there's going to be no boundary throw-ins. It's last touch. Um,
Mm,
I think there'll be a couple if it's like a spoiler or something like that. But
mm,
for the most part, a lot of those boundary throw-ins will be reduced, meaning that there's going to be a lot more open play, and your traditional ruckman might struggle to get the points. Hence why I've sort of gone big on two guys that dominate, score big, but don't necessarily score big from the run contest. Grundy, multiple games last year with 30 plus disposals, plays as that extra midfielder, same could be said as Luke Jackson. I'm surprised he didn't even have mid DVP to start the year because he started a lot of centre bounces with Sean Darcy last year. He is someone that they will use a lot. I don't. It's going to be hard for Sean Darcy. He doesn't give much around the ground, so I don't know how they'll work it. I think Sean Darcy, from what I can guess, will start a lot of centre bounces, and take that centre bounce ruck role, and then I'd assume Luke Jackson would push up the ground a little bit more and be that guy around the ground. So
mm.
look, it's something. It's we're sort of guessing with the new ruck situation, but I I was tempted to go how you've gone and sort of really go budget, but I still think there's value to be had in these rucks, and I think this is just going to open up the ground even more for a Grundy and a Jackson, and I think it just allows for Luke Jackson to run off his opposing ruckman even more than he already was, um, which could lead to more points. So yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. But I like them both. I wasn't big on Luke Jackson last year sharing the load with Sean Darcy, but he kept proving me wrong. So and with no forward DPP, I was sort of torn. But I think it was similar to what we said with the high end rookies. This is sort of what I've this is where I would get my cash if I needed cash, I think. I'm pretty happy with Liam Reedy as well on the bench. I think DPP is huge at that price. I think he'll be battling for that number one ruck role with Mark Pittman as well. So he's been brought across from Freo. Obviously, wasn't getting much of an opportunity and wouldn't with the inclusion of Mason Cox as well. But I think he'll go head to head with Mark Pittman and get a few games. And like we touched on last year, the DPP will be huge. So yeah, that's my three rucks, Ty. So I'd love to get your opinion on starting the two big dogs, and then obviously you've gone the exact opposite with Vigo Vicentini at R2. So yeah, what are your thoughts on your ruck situation?
Yeah, well, to touch on yours, like you said, there's going to be less ruck throw-ins. I actually think it's not going to be as much of a difference as everyone is building it up to be, because, like you said, the spoil going out of bounds, it's just going to be a throw-in. It's only pretty much the kicks that were already being ruled as insufficient intent anyway, are going to be the ones that really affect that ruck rule. So I do still like your thinking, and I think the main ruckman I would have gone with that thinking is Tim English, and I am looking at him. But it's kind of just wanted to see how they mold him in with Sam Darcy, if they're going to give Sam Darcy more time into the ruck, because he's probably going to end up developing into a ruckman. So I really like the look of Tim English for your reasons. But we know that Grundy's really good. I can't get around the Jackson pick. I know that he proved us wrong a lot last year, starting as an on-baller, so I don't mind that way of thinking, but I'm not sure for me that he's worth 610k. I'd be picking him maybe 550, maybe that 550 to 500k range. So, yeah, he's one that's still on my radar. Liam Reedy, if he's getting a game, you can best bet that he's going to be my R3. I made the mistake of last year starting Harry Boyd and not having the ruck DPP, which really screwed me up in a couple of rounds, to making some changes. So I'm for sure going to ruck forward DPP as my R3. It's currently just a 99k rookie for now, but yeah, it'll be Liam Reedy if he's getting a game. As for my rucks, like you said, with the new ruck sort of hindrance of hit outs, I don't think it's going to hurt Cherry too much. The more where it hurts Cherry is the less contests, because he loves a tackle. So it is going to affect him, but I feel like he's still underpriced. 680k, not underpriced, but he's probably like a good price at 680k. I know what I'm going to get out of him. He's just going to give 110%. Like I'm going to have a ruckman that's trying the whole game. So he's my starting one for now, but I'm more than happy to go elsewhere. But like we've been talking about with the ruck changes, well, I guess the less contests, I kind of am happy to let it ride for a few rounds before I commit to my R2. And that's why I'm looking at a really cheap option in Vigo Vicentini, because if he's the number one ruck at Essendon, I'm more than happy to have his numbers on field giving me 70s or whatever from a rookie, because he's just a ruckman. That's just what they get. And at 180k, that's easy. I then get another few rounds to then jump on my second premium ruck. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? You're clearly thinking a little bit different with the two premium rucks.
Yeah, I just with the uncertainty around the ruck situation this year, that's why I've sort of lent towards the proven performance. You know what you're going to get, and just set and forget your rucks. That's sort of where I've lent. Tristan Xerri, I was looking at. I am a bit worried about he thrives off tackles, off clearances, getting the ball in and under and kicking it, like getting those clearances, getting the tackles. With less contests, I think that just will lend to less points for him. He will still dominate. I still think he'll average 110 plus, but it might not be the 125 that we've gone to expect from Tristan Xerri. And look, we might be reading into this ruck situation and the boundary throwing rules too much, and it might not change as much as we might think, like you mentioned before. But for now, that's sort of the way I've landed. Vigo Vicentini, I do like. He's very undersized. Like he's still young, but who else is going to do it there? If Nick Bryan's the one. He's their best ruckman, and he will play a lot of footy for them when fit. I think he did his Achilles from memory, like round 8, round 9 last year. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tyson. I can't really remember. Around that sort of the first half, but towards the middle, just before the bye period. So Achilles injury is usually about a 12-month injury, so he's still probably a little bit away. So you'd think Vicentini will get the first crack at it with no Goldstein either. So yeah, I think it is a good way to start, and if that is the case come round 1, it could be a way that I lean as well.
Yeah, look, if I know that Nick Bryan did it very early in the year. I reckon it would have been around that April time. So I don't think he's actually going to be that far off. But there's also the other Blackiston, I think his name was, played a little bit of ruck. He's a defender.
I think he played mostly key back, didn't
he?
If
he is the number one ruck. Yeah, if he is the number one ruck, because there's apparently some reports of him being the number one ruck to start, maybe he's a good start in your defense line. But I think I'm going to pick whoever is the starting Essendon ruck, just to have another look.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I don't mind it. There's some value there for sure.
Yeah, definitely. That's the ruck line. Let's move to the forwards and the flex. And the flex is probably the place we will start, just because we've mentioned both of these guys before. So it's pretty easy go over of, like I said, I already have Will Brodie, and for you've got Kitty Coleman. Are you set on Kitty Coleman? You seemed a little bit skeptical when we brought him up before.
Yeah, I made a couple changes today, so we've had to rejig this whole slideshow a little bit. He came to my side today. I think Errol Gordon came to my side today. I had Callahan and Connor Rosie came to my side today. So there was a few changes. He came in. I really rate Kitty Coleman, so if he plays and gets that halfback role, that's something he'd be hard to miss. He's such a good ball user. They want the ball in his hands. So I'm happy to start with him. And I assume you're the same with, you spoke a lot about Will Brodie. If he's playing round one, I think everyone will probably start him.
Yeah, even if he's running off the half forward line, being the, high 20, I don't actually know how old he is, but we know that he can find the pill. He's just a massive accumulator, so he's going to find it wherever he starts on the field. So he's an easy pick, I feel, for rookies, as long as he is named round one.
Yep.
No subverse because there's no substitutions now coming into 2026, so that's good for our rookies. No more
Huge.
stunted cash generation, so that's
Huge.
massive for us. But let's get stuck into the main part of the forward line, and seems pretty similar off a first glance. There's a couple of differences here. We're both going for Harry Sheezel. Is he just as simple as Wangani Malera to be a starting pick?
Yeah. Yeah, he will. I think if Jacko Smith isn't the most owned, I think it'll be Harry Sheezel. As a forward, the way he finished off last year, I think everyone will start Harry Sheezel. I think Sam Flanders could be in a similar boat, Ty. So I think everyone will start Sam Flanders. Like the way he played footy a couple of years ago for Gold Coast, got thrown around heaps last year, had back issues, so and then played off half forward, which hence the forward eligibility and only forward eligibility, despite being in defence mid last year. Yeah, St Kilda recruited him as a midfielder. He'll play midfield for them, and he is a magnet. So I think those two are pretty much set and forgets for a lot of people's forward lines. I've gone Cozzy Pickett, Tice. I just love Cozzy Pickett. I think he showed how electric he can be. With Christian Petrarca and Clayton Oliver leaving that midfield, I think that just bodes for more midfield time for him, more centre bounces, drifting forward, kicking goals. Good DVP, and at a pretty good price at 490k. He was one of my first picks, I'm not going to lie. I really like the Cozzy Pickett pick, and someone that I'm really excited to watch play footy this year. So I see you haven't got him. What are your thoughts on Cozzy Pickett? And once you're done with that, you maybe talk to us about your F2.
Now, believe it or not, Cozzy Pickett was one of the first picked for me also. He just didn't make it into the side just with how I wanted to structure the rest of my team and how it sort of just eventuated. If we're looking deeper into my forward line, the skeptical pick of Jordan De Goey at the moment, if I had enough for him to go up to Cozzy Pickett, depending on the rookies, I guess, that's easy play for me. It's just I really want to fit in Cozzy Pickett so bad with Petrarca and Oliver going out. He was already in that midfield mix. Now it's only Jack Steele that's come in. Like, I feel like it's an easy pick to go Cozzy Pickett. And the more I'm talking about him right now, the more I want to go back into my team and change it and find the extra 170k or whatever it is to get him in. So yeah, I think I've just talked myself back into it. So that's good. I think we're both, pretty hot on him. But yeah, you alluded to my F2. I've gone with Sam Draper at the moment. Being injured all of last year, Brisbane need a ruck with Oscar McInerney going, and we know that he's a little bit better around the ground than some other ruckmen. He's not your classic tap ruckman, but I was a little bit skeptical at around that 400k mark. I'm just not a big advocate for Sam Draper himself, but I feel like just being that number one ruck, it's so hard in like the top side. It's so hard to not be a premium scorer. I could have this completely wrong. Like Oscar McInerney wasn't the greatest ruckman, but he was still around that 500k range all the time, just because he was for Brisbane, and Brisbane have been so dominant for a few years. So that's my thinking on Sam Draper at the moment. It also gives me a bit more flexibility with my ruck line because he's forward ruck. I don't know. I like it. Maybe I end up just dropping Cherry and throw Sam Draper in there and go the Cozzy Pickett and then upgrade the rest of my team as well. Like, that's another way I'm looking at it. I don't know. How do you feel about Sam Draper?
I can't get around. I don't think he's discounted enough for me. I looked at him. I definitely looked at him, but I think I just like he's not solo rucking. I don't think he's solo rucking. So that's probably the biggest deterrent for me. I think Darcy Fort played too good footy last year to be pushed out of the side by Sam Draper, who will have a limited preseason with an Achilles injury as well. Um, Brisbane have lent to that dual ruck situation for a long time. I don't think that'll change just because Oscar McInerney has retired. If anything, it might lean itself more towards that because Sam Draper can definitely play forward a lot more than Oscar McInerney could. So, I think you'll see some forward time. I think Darcy Fort will still be playing AFL footy. Had a really good grand final and good final series, Darcy Fort. So, had a good final series, and he's a great player. Well, he's a bit underrated. So, I think they'll still go the two rucks, but it is tempting. If he's solo ruck, he's definitely one that you have to look at.
Yeah, that's what I'm picking him based off. I'm picking him based off that solo ruck, and if he's not solo ruck, then I won't pick him. So I think it's just as simple as that for now. But the next one, before we get into some common players between our side, it's Jordan De Goey for me. I'll be honest, you kind of talked me into this one initially, being a Collingwood man. But if he, maybe you're better to talk about it because you sort of talked me into it. But I know that he's got a new kid now. Maybe it's going to pull his head in a little bit. If you get some midfield time, talk me through it, Das. And why haven't you started him?
I love it. And I haven't started him. I don't know. I don't know why I haven't started him. Just because I think he's one that I want to see a preseason from first. He'll play midfield minute. I think the role's not really a question mark for me. Craig McRae has never really flirted with him going forward. Nathan Buckley played him a lot out of the goal square. He played a lot of deep forward for Collingwood when Nathan Buckley was coach, but Craig McRae hasn't really even tried that. So he'll be a midfielder when he's playing. I just want to make sure his body's right. And my thinking was sort of a 320k. I can find it. If he has a good preseason and has a good couple of preseason games, I'll be able to find 320k easy, and I'll bring him in. He's got DPP, so I'm gonna bring him in at either line. I love the pick, and he's definitely one that I'll be looking at. He played a really good final series. I think the prelim he was pretty bad, but when we did our SuperCoach finals last year, he was one forward eligible as well. He really dominated in that first final against Adelaide. So I think at 320k for someone who will be a pretty high percentage CBA midfielder, I think it's a really good pick. And the same can be said, Tyson Adam Treloar, we both picked him. I think a lot of teams will start with him if he's fit. He has been a Supercoach gem for years and years and years and years. An underrated gem. He was always one of those guys who averaged 115, but would be less than 10% ownership all year long. Just because you sort of expect his body to maybe go down. He might do a hammy, do a calf, or you got Bont, you got Libbo, there's other guys in that doggies midfielder that's sort of taking the limelight away from him. But now we've got him for 310k. Now we've got him as a forward. It's almost a no-brainer if he's playing midfield minutes.
Yeah, I am probably more skeptical on the fact that he's going to play off the half-forward line. Being a little bit older, they'll probably go Bont, Libber until he gets another concussion, and then a Fraser or something in there. So I'm not sure that he's going to be one of them. Yeah, Ed Richards. Sorry, Ed Richards is going to be definitely the third. Fraser running in, and does Treloar fit into that being one of the main midfielders? We know that the Dogs like to do share it around with most of their players that sort of play similar or can go forward, like a Bont or Ed Richards can go forward. Like Adam Treloar can obviously go forward, playing as forward. So, it's a wait and see how they're going to structure up. But I think it's a pretty easy pick, even if he's going to be part of that midfield. We saw Jack McRae play off the forward line for the Dogs for his last season at the Dogs and still was scoring pretty well. He was probably priced around that 450 range from memory and, still scoring pretty well. So if Treloar's going to do the same thing, that's already 140k. It gets you close to a premium as well. It's nice to have in the forward line. And then the last one for me that we both have is Mateus Philippou. He's just was so good playing a few midfield games, and then he just got like, he's had a couple of injuries in the last 2 years, and that's why we're getting him so discounted at 168k. Like it's just an easy pick as well.
Yeah, easy pick. He had a few unlucky injuries last year, a couple of calf injuries, which is weird for a 21-year-old or however old he is. But yeah, like you said, back end of 2024, he was huge in that. Got a really good crack in that St Kilda midfield and showed why he was so highly rated in his draft year and why he was taken so high. So yeah, another one. I mean, we've said it a lot in this episode, but watch his preseason. Make sure he gets his body right. I think if he's fit, if he has a full preseason, he'll play midfield minutes. Another one, I think, similar to Tanner Bruin that we mentioned. He's a long-term midfielder for St Kilda. They want him in there. So if he's fit and firing, he'll be in there with Flanders, with Wangi Malera, with Jack McRae. I think those will sort of be, I might be missing someone, but sort of your core group of midfielders. I can't really think of it. Zach Jones is gone. Jack Steele's gone. So, yeah. And they've got Tom DeConey and Fenia down their throat now as well. So, yeah, I really like them. Philippou pick. I might just run it out quickly, Tyson, with my forward rookies. I've got Devon Robertson, similar to... And I've got Devon Robertson and Finn McRae. I'll sort of chuck them in. I've got similar boat as Harry Schellenberg. I think they're all experienced players. Finn McRae obviously had a soft spot for him at Collingwood. He dominates VFL football. He is way above the VFL level, and then he comes into AFL standard and he just can't really crack it. I'm hoping getting a good crack into West Coast midfield might help him. Again, good DVP, good price, someone to look at if he gets a game. Devon Robertson has been a West Coast radar for a long time. They've tried a couple of times to get him. They finally got him this year as a delisted free agent. If he can get a crack in that midfield, he was obviously playing good VFL football for a strong Brisbane side for a long time. So it was sort of hard to get a good crack into that Brisbane side. But I think at West Coast he can have a really good chance and hopefully play some midfield minutes. So 119k forward, it's one that will be an easy pick if he does play round one. And then Todd Marshall, Tice, love to get your opinion on him. I think at 147k, he is a key forward. So you're probably paying for what you get. But I think he's a really, really good footballer. I think it's left on how good Todd Marshall is and how much Port missed him last year. If he can get his body right, he can pull off some really big ceiling games, I think. I'm a really big Todd Marshall guy, and 147k, the job security is not an issue. It's just you hope that he can just slowly tick away and make you some cash on your bench, or I think he'd be pretty reliable on field option as well.
Yeah, being a key forward, we know in previous years hasn't been great for scoring, but we've seen it with, I think Tom Lynch was super cheap one year and did pretty well for cash generation. Just your guaranteed games out of him. Yeah, Todd Marshall with a bit more size on him would be, he's someone that I've definitely considered. Being the main key forward for Port. Obviously no Charlie Dixon anymore. It was pretty much Georgiades all last year. So he's going to help him out. And I believe that they have a bit of a softer run to start the year as well. So that's why I'm really looking at Todd Marshall too. And then back on Dev Robertson, I'm a big Dev Robertson man. I really like him. I think he's going to be a gun. I think he should have been playing that Brisbane side, to be honest. But West Coast finally got their man, and I feel like I'm going to start him. The only reason I picked Finn McRae over him is because he's got that DPP at the moment. So Dev Rob's only a forward. Finn McRae's a forward mid. So it's kind of, I'm just going to pick who looks like they're going to have the better role out of them too, I think, to start the year.
Yeah.
Then my final player is Jamara Ugelhagen. He is 214k, and I hate seeing that amount sitting on my bench. But if he is playing round one, all reports are he's put his head, screwed his head back on. He's got a new girlfriend. It just turned his life around. Apparently he's so good. If he's going to start in that Gold Coast side, who we know are going to be top 4 contenders this year, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. We know how good Ugelhagen is. That's why he went at pick 1. He got up to the heights of 430, 450k in 2024 from memory. So, and then last year he was going to start at 355k. That's already 140k under price with another preseason under his belt, developing again. I feel like that Ugelhagen is actually a lot more relevant than people are probably putting on him. In terms of Supercoach sense, that's provided he is getting a game though. What are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I love it. I've written down a couple of players that I wanted to speak on after this. A couple of players who just missed my side, or who I was really strongly considering. He's definitely one of them. Like you said, he's just at that awkward price. If he was 30, 40k cheaper, he was 170, 180k. It would have been a lot easier to pick him. I don't know. It's just something about having the two in front of it makes it like it's more of a commitment, and it is a bit harder. But yeah, like you said, he's such a talent. We tend to read into like we read a lot into girlfriends. I feel like you see a lot of people get girlfriends and they just that like their whole life sort of comes together and they can screw themselves in a little bit more. So yeah, Jordan Go is definitely one of those, and I think Jamari Ugle-Hagan seems to be on the right path again and enjoying his life up on the Gold Coast. So I like it. One definitely to keep an eye on the preseason. The only thing is like before, like even last year, Gold Coast were littered with key forwards. They've already got Ben King, Jed Walter, Ethan Reed, and then adding Ugle-Hagan to that mix as well. There's a lot of guys down there, but I think he's arguably the best of the lot. So I think they'll like if he's at his best, he's going to be that guy. I think Ben King will probably leave at the end of the year, so I think they'll probably want to focus their forward line around Jamara. So I like the pick.
Yep, no, that's fair. Yeah, that's good. It rounds out our sides and like having a look at a team overall. We're both pretty mid-price heavy. It's
Yeah,
definitely
we
going to
are.
be a mid-price year, that's for sure. And yeah, I haven't accounted for the buys. I know that you have. So I actually guess my team's going to shuffle a tiny bit towards
I thought you said it was
yours
never going to
in a
change.
sense of I without looking at the bites, it wasn't going to change. But yeah, maybe a few players that you were considering. Most we have spoken about, like most of the ones that I had down that missed my side, you actually picked up. So we have spoken about most of the ones that I had. But is there any on your radar that you had for your side that just didn't make it, and you still feel like they could easily sneak into your team?
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of guys. I have a few written down. A couple we've touched on already, but a couple that I did want to bring up. One who made way today for Kitty Colin was actually Ollie Florent. I'd love to speak to him about him a little bit. He's 320k. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's around that, just over 300k. Come across from Sydney to Carlton. For me, it's really role dependent. Carlton have been crying out for a explosive halfback for a long time now. Adam Sard just hasn't really been doing it lately. They've tried Ollie Hollands back there, but he's not really that run and dash sort of player. He doesn't have that same breakaway speed as Ollie Florent would. So if he's playing off halfback, he's someone that I'll definitely consider. If he's playing on the wing, I'll probably steer clear. I'd love to get your thoughts on Ollie Florent. Was there someone that you looked at all?
Yeah, I've definitely looked at Ollie Florent as well. They've clearly recruited him for a reason. And with the only caveat I have on not picking Ollie Florent is Nick Newman and how Newman, Sard, and Florent all fit into that back line. Maybe it's good for them to have the halfback that's going to be better with the ball, maybe play a little bit slower in Nick Newman coming back, and maybe not have the two dashing halfbacks, maybe just one. It's a wait and see for me on that, but I feel like I could easily even pick Nick Newman as well. Being that cheaper guy, we know how good he is in previous years as well. So having that big injury last year, I really like the look of Florent and Newman. So both are definitely on my radar. Another one that I've seen not in both of our sides, and I think a lot of people are going to be starting him, and I reckon we have the similar reasons as to why we haven't. In Christian Petrarca playing as a forward mid at Gold Coast, you can pick him in the forward line, Das. Why have you not picked him?
Yeah, he's on my list. I was literally about to bring him up. I can't. It's so hard to say that like you wouldn't have thought that you see Christian Petrarca available as a forward at a pretty good price at the start of the year, and you just don't want to touch him. I just can't. I think he'll be playing too much forward line, to put it short, too much forward footy. With Matt Rowell, Noah Anderson going through and sort of being the two main guys in that Gold Coast midfield, I think they won't go forward. I think Christian Petrarca will play a lot more forward. He'd have to really like settle into that Gold Coast structure really nicely for me to consider him. I just don't think the role will be there. We loved him when he was the main guy at Melbourne, or that 1-2 punch with Clayton Oliver. I think he's going to be playing third fiddle or playing that high half forward or even deep forward role, which is something that with those key, like we spoke about the huge key forwards that they have at Gold Coast, I'm just not really sure how they're going to make it all work. So that's the main reason why I haven't picked him. Is it the same for you?
Yeah, pretty much the same reasons. Like, it's going to be Anderson and Rao as the main two, and then it's Took Miller, Christian Petrarca, all the other younger guys that they need to put in through there, like a Leo Lombard,
Bailey Humphrey.
maybe they three. Yeah, Bailey Humphrey, yeah, definitely.
Will Graham as well. They throw him through there. He was injured a bit last year, but they've got high raps on him. So there's lots of midfielders to make way. I think Took Miller will probably be one of the guys that plays forward, but yeah, heaps of guys.
Yeah, well, I feel like it could easily just be maybe a Anderson and Rao, and then the other younger guys come in when they are resting on the bench, and then the third is just Took Miller and Petrarca just rotating.
Yeah,
that could easily be it, because they can both play forward. They took Miller off the half forward line a fair bit last year, so that could easily in my head be it. But he's too pricey, and I feel like you're the same as well. He's probably just too expensive to start. And look, if he does set the world alight and is running in that midfield, then yeah, I'll do what I can to grab him in as a main forward premium. But I'm not starting him.
Yeah, I think like you can get Cozzy Picker for cheaper, Sam Flanders for cheaper. Like Sheasel's not that much more expensive than there's good options and better options for around about the same price or cheaper. So yeah, I think that's probably the main reason we're not going there. But like you said, I think he will be a popular starter. So it's one that I'd be really keen to see the numbers on once we do get the numbers in terms of popularity. There's one more, Tice, that I wanted to talk about, who I had in my side this morning, but I did train him out today. Colby McKercher. I love Colby McKercher, and playing off halfback, I love Colby McKercher. He is a star, and I just love the way that he moves and the way that he kicks the footy. And like, he was the guy there last year, in the back half of last year. You picked him up in Classic, and he was elite. I had him, and I loved the pick. He was one of my first picked. And then I saw an article today that he is training in the midfield and spent the whole session with the midfield coach. And I just can't do it again. I had him in draft last year, and the same thing happened to start the year. He was just terrible playing half forward and on the wing and a little bit through the guts. And he will be a really good midfielder for North Melbourne, but I just can't get the throwing around of positions. If I knew he was playing halfback, I would pick him in a heartbeat.
Yeah, well, look, you never know. With the preseason under his belt, he could come up to be that top line midfielder, and maybe the 1-2 punch is Sheasel and McKercher. You never know, but you got to see some games first before you can really judge on that. Whereas you saw last year in the few games that probably wasn't up to it yet. So it's probably a safer option to steer clear. But yeah, the last one that I kind of wanted to bring up, and it's more of a broader talking point, is the most expensive man that you can pick in SuperCoach 2026, Marcus Bontempelli. When do you start him? When do you get him? Do you just avoid? Is this the year he drops off? Like, the Bont can't drop off, right?
No, the Bont can't drop off. I don't think I've ever started the Bont. I don't think I've ever started with it. He's always too expensive. I just can't justify it. So yeah, I don't think many people will start him, but you can't knock it if you do. Like, we know what you're going to get from him. So he is the most expensive guy, and fairly so. But yeah, I probably wouldn't be going there. Like, I'd rather a Zach Butters. And then you're looking like, I think I don't know his exact price, but look, if for 100k cheaper, over 100, 130k cheaper, he bonds 706,000. 130k cheaper, you can get Caleb Sarong. For like 80k cheaper, you can get Nick Dacos. For over 200k, you can get Clayton Oliver, Will Day, like those sort of guys. I think you'd just rather cash to start your team.
cash is so scarce at the start of the year. Obviously, being set with the 10 mil to build your side, and it's a lot to put into a player of over 700k. So we know that he has his little dips throughout the year. It's just timing it right. He doesn't dip much. I suspect he might dip below 600k at some point. And that's when I'm going to be looking to pick him up. But if he sets the world alight, it's going to be too hard to reach. And then we're already so far behind the pack because we know how good Marcus Bontempelli can be. So, it's just hoping that the rest of the players that you went to instead of starting Bont is holding their weight. So I think it's easier to not start him than it is to start him.
Yeah.
And I feel like he is going to be popular, just being the most expensive. We've seen that in previous years. Just the most expensive player is just the most popular, just because it's easy to see. He's the number one there. So, it's obviously for some reason. So, that's pretty much all that I had on the Bond. Is there anyone else that you wanted to bring up?
No, I think that's about it, mate. I think we touched on everyone from our team and a couple of blokes who just missed the cut. Like you mentioned at the start of the episode, this is definitely not it from us, so expect a lot more content in the next weeks and months and all, leading up to round 0 and the preseason games, and we're really keen to cover it all. I think we're going to bring you some predictions soon, and then we'll go and delve deep into the individual teams and sort of look at the SuperCoach relevant options there. But also, like you said, this is our first episode on YouTube, so if you are watching, subscribe, give us a like, and we're keen for the big year that is 2026. And unless there's anything else you want to add, mate, let's get stuck into it.
It's finally a SuperCoach Corner preseason. We haven't had a SuperCoach Corner preseason, provided we started in round 2 last year. So we're planning a heap of content coming your way. So there'll be random podcasts here and there just to talk about random news. The team-based podcasts will go through each team. I suspect them to be a 15 to 20-minute podcast, but it's sort of delving on each player and their starting lineup, possibly, and maybe a sneaky pick who comes up here and there from. I'm actually really looking forward to the team podcasts. That'll be good. And then the predictions are probably going to be the next one that comes out. So keep an eye out for that.
Excited for that.
Make sure you keep notifications on. Then you'll know whenever we get a post up. You can listen straight away. Get ahead of your mates, and you really send them astray.
And if you've listened this long and you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment as to who's more handsome, Darcy or Tyson, and that would be much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Darcy.
No worries, mate. All right, perfect. Well, thanks again, Tice, and we'll see you all later.
See you, mate.